The President, please be seated. The court is now in session. According to our hearing schedule, the chamber is going to hear the testimony of witness Sun Kanal. We hope to have his testimony heard completely by today, and we will hear testimony of TCW 620 afterward. Mr. Saikovati, you are now instructed to report to the chamber on the current status of the parties to the proceedings today. Saikovati, Mr. President and Your Honors, all parties to the proceedings are present, except Mr. Ieng Sari and Nuon Chia, who are present in their respective holding cell due to health concerns. Today, the chamber continues hearing the testimony of Mr. Sun Kanal, who is present in the courtroom. The Westsu unit has informed the trial chamber that TCW 620, who has been summoned to give testimony today, has had an accident, a traffic accident. The witness is not able to give his the testimony as scheduled. So today we do not have a reserve witness. The President, thank you, Madam Saikovati. Before we proceed to hear the testimonies of the witness before us, the chamber wishes to inform the parties to the proceedings that during today's sessions and the following sessions, Judge Lavian, who has some medical concerns, will not be able to attend the proceedings, and we have consulted this with the judges of the bench, and Judge Claudia Fens will be in his place during the time of Judge Lavian's absence. This practice is in line with the prescription of internal rules of the ECCC, Internal Rule 99, subparagraph 4. Counsel for Mr. Nuon Chia, you are on your feet. You may proceed. Counsel Son Arun, Mr. President, we have learned from the doctor who treats Mr. Nuon Chia that Mr. Nuon Chia's health condition is deteriorating and his blood pressure was elevated this morning, and now he feels very weak, that he is not able to observe the proceedings in the courtroom. He has asked that he be excused and be permitted to observe the proceedings from downstairs through his holding cell. The President, the chamber has noted the request by Mr. Nuon Chia through his counsel. Mr. Nuon Chia has requested that he be allowed to observe the proceedings from his holding cell for the whole day due to his health concerns. This request is appropriate and substantiated by the medical report by the treating doctor. The chamber therefore grants the request. Mr. Nuon Chia is now allowed to observe the proceedings from his holding cell downstairs through audio-visual link. Mr. Nuon Chia has expressly waived his right to be present in the courtroom. The court would like counsel for Mr. Nuon Chea to submit the waiver given thumbprint or signed by Mr. Nuon Chea as soon as possible. Every booth officer is now instructed to ensure that the audio-visual link is well connected to the holding cell of Mr. Nuon Chea so that he can observe the proceedings from there for the whole day today. We would like now to hand over to the prosecution, members of the prosecution, to put questions to the witness. You may proceed.
Mr. President, Your Honours, may it please you, and good morning to you, Mr. Suon Keneal. I'd like to start, please, today's questioning on the subject of meetings. So meetings that you personally attended or meetings which you have some knowledge of. In your OCIJ Statement E3/411, English ERN 00390074 through to 75, Khmer 00373507, and French 00424033. You said this: I attended a zone assembly meeting which was held once in every 6 months or a year. Is that correct?
Response: yes, it is.
Now, you were working in the zone telegram office for the central zone, or the old north zone that became the central zone, in Kampong Cham. So where did the zone assembly meetings take place?
Response: the meeting took place in Kampong Cham at the theater near the riverfront. It's an open meeting.
And in connection with the committees that attended the zone assembly meeting, and I adopt the same pages, you said that the meeting was attended by the district committee, the sector committees, and the commune committees. Is that correct?
Response: yes, it is.
And to put some timings on these meetings, you said that these zone assembly meetings took place in 1976 or 1977. Is that correct?
Response: yes, it is. The meetings took place in 1977, and the meetings were convened on a monthly basis when the zone committees would attend. If you would like me to speak in more detail than this, I can do that as well. Normally, when the zone meetings were convened, only members of the zone committees would attend such meetings. And there were 5 members of the zone So far as I remember, 5 members.
Can you clarify this for me then? On the Central Zone Committee, we have 5 members, and they meet for their own special meeting of the Zone Committee. Is that correct?
Response. I may wish to add further on top of this. Indeed, that is correct. However, when it comes to the agendas of the meetings, I'm afraid I don't know about this.
Just so that we're clear, this special meeting, where one has the 5 Zone Committee members in attendance, is this different from the bigger Zone Assembly meeting where Commune Committee members attend?
Response. The meetings in the zone were convened, as I said. However, when more members from the commune or sector committees could attend, such meeting would be convened in a more open session than the one convened by the zone committee for just committee zone members' attendance.
So I have it clear. The special zone committee meeting you would not attend because there were obviously 5 members of the zone committee. But the more general zone assembly meetings you did attend. Is that correct?
Response. Yes, the assembly meetings were open for committees from as low as commune committee. I sometimes were allowed to attend such meetings, but when I had the prior engagement, I would not attend, but I sometimes did.
On the open zone assembly meetings that you did attend, who presided over those zone assembly meetings?
Response. The open zones assembly meetings were chaired by the secretary of the zone.
K. Polk, is that correct?
Response. Yes, it is.
Did any of the senior leaders, more senior than K. Polk, ever attend any of these zone assembly meetings?
Response. When the assemblies convened by the zone, only the members of the zones, the zone would be the one who organized or conducted them.
In your OCIJ interview, adopting the same page reference as before, you spoke of a 4-fold slogan and I quote, "No, no, no see, no hear, no talk." When did you first learn or come across that slogan?
Response. I came across this slogan that you already stated during the course of my work, because during the Democratic Cambodia, meetings were convened where people could criticize and place themselves for criticism. During such meetings, we also discussed about this fourfold slogan. It means we had to mind our own business.
Thank you. In your OCIJ statement E3/344, English ERN 00384434, French 00426154, and Khmer 00373503. You spoke of the Central Zone Security Office, and you said, I quote, "This was located near Kampong Cham Provincial Hall." Is that correct?
Response. The Central Zone Security Center was actually located near the Provincial Hall of Kampong Cham. That is correct.
Can you give us, please, some idea of the distance from, if one was walking from the Kampong Cham Security Office to the Kampong Cham Zone Office, how long would it take to walk that journey?
Response. The Central Zone Security Center, if we come from the Tunle But location, then we would walk straight to the Provincial Hall. On the left-hand side, which is about half a kilometer away from the Provincial Hall, then you would see the Central Zone Security Center. Because at that time, Provincial Hall was not occupied by senior cadres of or officials. There was the place where agricultural instruments would be stored, or implements, agricultural implements would be stored.
Did you ever deal with any telegrams, letters, or any other communications in the whole of your time at the Central Zone Telegram Office that mentioned or dealt with the Central Zone Security Office?
Response. Could you please repeat your question that emphasizes on the security center matter again?
Did you ever deal with any telegrams that mentioned the security office?
Response. For the telegram section and the security section, we had different functions. At the telegram section, we were tasked with dealing with telegram, decoding and messages. When the security center people would do different things. But I had some friends, and indeed I worked mainly at the telegram section, but I had a friend who worked as the head of the security. We were very close, and although we did not exchange some confidential aspect of the work, we would talk every now and then about our solidarity, about socialization, and indeed we respected one another's functions.
This friend who worked in the security unit, was he the one who gave you information about the incident you mentioned in your evidence last Friday about the prisoner and Sun Huan alias Im?
Response. The reason I learned that Im was the information of Im was learned to me by the secretary of the zone, because in the morning when I presented him some documents, the zone secretary talked to me something about Im's character and attitude.
Now, dealing with the sectors in the central zone, so Sector 41, Sector 42 and Sector 43, did they have their own sector security offices?
In the three sectors subordinate to the zone, each had its respective security office. I know for sure that there was security office, but I did not see it by my own eye because I did not go and inspect the sector myself.
Mr. President, can I please ask for leave to show to Mr. Suan Knil and to have projected on the screen document E3/1679.
President, you may proceed. Court officer is instructed to obtain the document from the prosecutor and hand it over to the witness.
Mr. Suan Knil, if you could take a moment to read this document, I will summarise it. This document E3/1679 is telegram number 15. It is addressed at the top of page 1 with the words, "Respectfully submitted to Comrade Brother Pol." From the second page, we know that this is a telegram that was sent on the 30th of November 1975. And in terms of the CC or copy column, we have the names Brother Nguyen, Brother Duan, Brother Yem, and archives. Now, Mr. Suan Kunil, just in connection with the copy addressees, you said on Friday that you received instructions within the zone to put down the names of these people as copy addressees. Is that correct?
Response. For this particular telegram, I did not see it myself. I see the undersign was Chon. I never received this telegram because I had never known Chon.
Let me ask the question this way. When you were at the zone telegram office and telegrams were being sent to somebody within the party centre, did you write down, or let me rephrase that, did you know where the telegram was being copied when you sent it?
Let me clarify this working procedure. At that time, as far as the telegram was concerned, I was in charge of most operating. But for this particular telegram and the content of this telegram, I did not know. And certain telegrams I was aware of. Why? Because sometimes I carry this telegram myself. And in addition, whenever there was any important meeting to be convened, I would be informed as well. So the office would circulate the information about the meeting relating to the information contained in the telegrams. That's why I was aware of it. And once again, what I would like to reiterate is that I learned certain information because I was informed by the office. And of course, during the Democratic Cambodia period, meetings were held very frequently. There were, for example, once in every 3-day meetings or a regular meeting schedule almost every time.
Mr. Khalil, let me clarify the question. When you had a piece of paper in your hand that was a telegram that was to be sent to somebody in the centre, did that piece of paper usually have the names of the people to whom it was going to be copied? Yes or no?
For the telegram to be sent to the center, it had to go through the zone. And at the zone level, they never mentioned people to whom it was supposed to be copied. It only addressed to Committee 870. Then when this telegram reached 870, then those who were responsible for documenting the document, they would indicate as to whom this telegram was to be copied. So it was up to them at 870.
Thank you. Concentrating on this telegram, and I appreciate that this was not a telegram that you personally were involved in. But if you can remember back to this time in late 1975, we learn from this telegram that the East Zone had been attempting to repatriate, well, I shouldn't use that word, attempting to move 50,000 Muslim people from the East Zone to the old North Zone, which became the Central Zone. And that this movement exercise was not completed because people in the old North Zone did not take the 50,000 Muslim people. Now, can you help us, given that you were in the zone office at Kampong Cham with a Muslim population in that province? What was going on, please, if you can help us, with the Muslim population of Kampong Cham province in late 1975?
As for the Muslim Cham community, I look at the content of the telegram dated the 30th of November 1975. It was some 5 or 6 months from the victory of the Khmer Rouge. I was not aware at all about the movement of Cham Muslim, and I think that if that was informed by the zone level, I would have been aware of it as well. But what I noted was that at that time, those Cham Muslims who surrender and wave their white flag remain in the same location. So there was no reason for moving them out, and I did not see that movement. But once again, when the Khmer Rouge took power, I remained in Siem Reap province, but only when everything was put in order, I was moved to Kampong Cham zone at that time. And then after that, my boss was promoted to the zone secretary. So once again, the arrangement at Kampong Cham province had already been done well before I was transferred to Kampong Cham. So I only knew certain information. I only tell you what I know, as I have already taken an oath.
Let me just put some dates on this. You said that you moved to the Central Zone, or Kapalk's Zone Telegram Unit. I think you said in sort of late April 1975. So not long or within weeks of the liberation or evacuation of Phnom Penh. Do I have that right, or is that wrong?
I was to transfer to the Central Zone, and you ask me about specific date when I was transferred to Kampong Cham and then I was moved to the Central Zone. I do not recall exactly, but the distance was not quite too far from each other. I was once assigned to work in Siem Reap, then I was transferred to Kampong Cham, then I was once again transferred to the Central Zone.
Just clarify this for me if you can. After you started working in the Central Zone Telegram Office. Did you personally deal with any telegrams that mentioned what was happening with the Muslim population?
Throughout the period when I was working for the telegram unit of the Central Zone, I was aware of the discussion of Muslim Cham in Antung So community, and I was told that those community was to remain there without any movement out of it at all. And I actually never went there to see myself, and I knew this because one of my friends who went to Antung So, he witnessed that the Muslim Cham community was still there. So it was my understanding that they must not have been moved. And it was actually somewhere close to PM Chikong. It's about quite far from the provincial town of Kumpung Cham, so I never visited there. But that's what I learned from my friend who went there himself.
So if the Cham community in Ang Thong Sa were not being moved, did you know what was happening to other Muslim communities apart from Ang Thong Sa?
President, witness, please hold on. The National Defense Council for Mr. Kirsampon, you may proceed. Council Kongsamon. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to object against this question for the reason that the prosecutor is suggesting the witness to speculate in his answer. He asked what would have happened to Cham communities if they had been moved. And I believe that this question is highly suggestive, and it's expecting speculation from the witness.
Mr. President, speculation and evidence are two different things. I'm simply asking Mr. Keneal if he can help us on what happened to the Muslim community apart from the Muslims who are in Ang Thong Sa. He can either give an answer or not. The question itself does not imply any speculation whatsoever.
The President, witness, please respond to the question. Witness, I would like to respond to this question. At Antung So, there was no evacuation of the Muslim Cham, but in the Central Zone, there was a Cham community in somewhere in Barai district in Tumpang Chuk village. But that Cham community was not evacuated either, and they remain there until today.
Do you know of any Muslim Cham communities or villages that were evacuated?
I only knew of the two locations of a Cham community. I was not aware of any other evacuation of Cham community elsewhere. There might have been evacuation, but I was not aware of any. And I only knew two locations of Cham communities, one being in Antung So, the other one being in Barai district.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can I please ask for leave to present the final telegram to Mr. Suam Keneal, E3/511, and can that please also go up on the screen?
President, you may proceed.
Again, Mr. Suwan-Keneal, if you take a moment to familiarise yourself with this document, I will summarise its contents. It's a telegram number 4. It was sent from Comrade Polk on the 2nd of April 1976. It is addressed to, respectfully submitted to respected Brother Pol, and copies are shown on the final page to Brother Nguyen, Brother Q, office and file. By looking at the first page of the telegram, we can see that Comrade Polk is saying in the first line of the telegram, I request to report to Brother on the enemy situation, the situation of the masses, and the production situation in the North Zone as follows. And then there is a heading, number 1, the enemy situation in the entire North Zone. There's a second red box on the first page, and within that box there are these words. The enemies are former soldiers in combination with the Cham and former cooperative team chairman. They used copies of a photo of Lon Nol and Nol's announcement of the 18th of March 1970 to post on trees near Trapang something illegible village in Chamka Leu district, and conducted others activities like burning forests and destroying crops. The next small paragraph states we captured some elements who were former cooperative team chairman. And then the words, along with this, they have agents embedded inside. Now, in your time at the telegram unit, did you ever receive any information that suggested that the Cham were perceived as enemies?
If we look at this telegram, particularly the date, it was soon after the victory of the Khmer Rouge. Throughout my time with the telegram unit, I did not know anything about the situation of the Muslim Cham, and the decoding section of the telegram unit work separately, and I was newly appointed to the central zone at that time, and I was purely in charge of the most operating. I think it was up to the decoder of these telegrams who were aware of the content of this, and I was not aware of this particular telegram. And as for the activities of or the move of the Muslim Cham community, it could not have evaded the eyes of the masses at that time. So they could have talked from one to another about their situation at the time. There was a public protest by the Cham Muslim community at Chik Kraing in Siem Reap. That was one instance that I was aware of, but other than that, I did not know because I was purely confined to operating the mosque at that time.
What happened to the Cham people who were protesting?
I did not know, and I was not the one who decoded this telegram, so I did not know.
You knew about enemies and traitors because they were arrested in your zone and you had information about them. As far as you were concerned,
Confrère. Juste un mot, Monsieur le Président.
Word, Mr. President. On several occasions, we have not received the interpretation of the beginning of the co-prosecutor's questions. It may well be that he is speaking too rapidly. So the question you have just asked was not interpreted in its entirety. We did not hear the beginning. So maybe you should try to slow down a bit.
thank you. I'll repeat the question, simplify it, and slow down. You gave evidence on Friday about enemies and traitors being arrested. Which classes of people were enemies of the Khmer Rouge?
On this question, the enemy of the Khmer Rouge, well, I was very young at that time, and my responsibility was small as well. So the arrangement of the arrest of enemies or so, I was not aware of. I did not understand that much at the time. To my knowledge, in the early 1976, the arrest was not done in a large scale, but in 1977 and 1978, mass arrests were carried out.
Mr. Suankinil, were you still working at the Central Zone Telegram Unit in the weeks prior to the Vietnam occupying forces taking control in January 1979?
When the Vietnamese troops came to Cambodia on the 7th of April 1975, I was working in the Central Zone, and my office was quite close to the Ferry Pier in Kampong Cham province. So we could observe the movement of the enemies and the Vietnamese forces. We did also witness the Vietnamese forces using tanks and moving tanks around.
Now, can you help us, please? What happened, if you can help us, What happened to all the documentation that was sitting in the Central Zone offices, including the telegram unit? What happened to all this documentation on the day that the Vietnamese arrived?
That I do not know. When the Vietnamese came, I fled, and people had to flee for their life at that time without worrying about the documentation behind. So I did not know who finally, possessed those documents. We just fled the place. I do not know, and that's all I can say about that, because at that time the situation was chaotic, and I had to leave, because at that time I saw the reinforcement of forces somewhere opposite Kampong Cham provincial city, somewhere in Tân But, and then I had to flee at that time from Bang Snai to Wil Vung and then to Wat Nako.
Mr. Suan Kanil, thank you very much for answering my questions. I'd like to hand over now to the civil party lawyers. Thank you very much.
President. Now I hand over the floor to the lead co-lawyer for the civil parties. You may proceed.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur le Président. Bonjour. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning to all parties. My national colleague, Mr. Nanki, will be starting this line of questioning. I will then follow. Thank you.
Counsel Kim Min-ki. Thank you, Mr. President and Your Honors, and good morning to everyone. Good morning, Mr. Suan Kanil. I am Kim Min-ki, representing the civil parties from the Avocats Sans Frontières, and I have a few questions concerning your background during the Khmer Rouge regime. The first question is as follows. From the time you joined the revolution until the fall of the Khmer Rouge, did you establish a close relation with Mr. Kai Pok, and how? Response. From 1975, I had some communication with Kai Pok until 1970. Rather, I had built relationship with him, but our interactions were not intimate. During these early years, we did not contact one another often, but he would call me when he needed me to work for him. Counsel, thank you. As the head of the Telegram group, did you ever receive any information or instructions concerning telegrams by Kai Pok or other individuals? Response. As a person who specialized in telegrams, I received instructions from the secretary of the zone who was overall in charge of the zone activities. And I studied telegram at the central office, and the training was under the supervision of the central committee office. And during that time, if I had to fix problems with my, for example, the broken tap or a Morse machine, then we would have it fixed in Phnom Penh. Question: do you know anything about the evacuations of Phnom Penh and the classification of people, the old and the new people? Response. I don't think I get your question properly. Question: were you aware of the evacuation of the people from the capital city of Phnom Penh and the classification of old and new people? Response. People were evacuated from Phnom Penh, and whether they were classified as old or new people, this is not what I knew about. I worked at the office which was close to the senior cadres of the regime at the zone, and I did not know much about what happened at the base level. Indeed, people receive different education at different levels, and indeed people were told to follow the fourfold slogan as indicated, and I had to focus strictly on my performing my duty very well. Thank you. Question: apart from being a Morse operator, typing the Morse codes, did you have an opportunity to visit or to meet with any of the evacuees in your local area? Response. I do not know anything about the evacuation, and once again, as a person who was in charge of telegrams, I would be tasked with dealing with these telegrams mainly. Maybe occasionally I would be asked to help do farming, but mainly my task was at the telegram section, and I was not spared from being used as a farmer or worker who had to do farming, but that was just my secondary tasks as opposed to my primary task as a Morse code operator. Thank you. I have another question. concerning your work. Was any of your members in the Telegram's group ever punished, for example, after having committed some mistakes or after having failed to perform the tasks properly? Response. Everyone in my group in the Telegram unit was well aware of this fourfold slogan: no talk, so on and so forth, and meetings were convened very frequently. There were different kind of meetings, small, big meetings, self-criticism sessions. Everyone was well informed, and everyone had to be very careful because they did not want to place themselves for criticism, or they did not want to allow other people to criticize them. And we had to do our utmost best to reduce committing wrongdoing. Question. Again, did anyone get punished for failing to perform their duties properly? Response. In our group, if anyone had committed any wrongdoing, they would be criticized through meeting sessions. You may wish me to elaborate on what self-criticism sessions would mean and how they were conducted, but this is how people would be corrected or criticized if they committed some wrongdoings. Question. In the telegrams, did you ever hear that Kaibok would report on the daily activities of the people to the Central Committee through such your telegrams, through the telegrams, I mean? Response. Rice production and other activities of the people would be reported by Mr. Kaibok, as he had the authority to report to his superiors on this. Question. Were you aware of any incidents concerning the report made by Kaibok to the Central Committee? What was the content of such report, for example, if you remember? Response. Kaibok reported the content of which was known to me only during the open assembly meetings, when he discussed about the farming techniques, the traditional, the conventional techniques in doing farming. And Mr. Kaibok didn't talk about other matters in other meetings other than the assembly meetings. Thank you. Question. You worked at the Central Zone. Were you aware that people were evacuated from the East Zone and they had to pass the Central Zone before being relocated elsewhere? Response. I saw people who were evacuated from the east to they were passing central zone. Some were evacuated to Kampong Thma location, and some had returned home. Indeed, by late of 1970, rather by the last minute before the fall of the Khmer Rouge, we could see that a lot of people returned home. They were moved to that location for several years. Question: did you know the reason behind this evacuation of the people to that area? The President: Mr. Witness, please hold on. Counsel for Mr. Kiew Sampon, you may now proceed. Counsel Kung Som-on: thank you, Mr. President. I'm not quite sure if I understood the date, the timeline the counsel for the civil parties was referring to. If he were clear in his questioning, for example, whether he was talking about the first or second phase of the evacuation or the third one, and I don't understand this. The President, counsel for the civil party, you are advised to rephrase your question, and you have only 15 minutes left to put the questions to the witness, and the objection sustained. Counsel for the civil party: thank you, Mr. President. With that, I have no further questions to put to the witness. I would like to cede the floor to my colleague to continue putting some questions. And with that, I thank you, Mr. Civil Party, very much for your responses.
Mr. Witness, I simply want to add a few supplementary questions before you address the matter of the movement of the population, just to clarify a response that you had given to my colleague with respect to the new people and the base people. If I gathered correctly, you stated that you were not aware. Sir, are you saying that during those 3 years and 8 months you never heard about the notions of base people and new people? Is this correct? Is this what you mean?
Response: it is true. Yes, I only saw the old and the new people, but I did not understand much about how these people were managed or what kind of treatment they would receive.
Thank you for that clarification. Let us talk about the transfer of people. In your OCIJ statement E3/344 in French 0030 43 61 54, on English 0038 33 34, and in Khmer 003504, you state the following: I do not recall the date at which the January 1 dam was built. Cham was in charge of the construction of the January 1 dam from Kampong Thma to Shtong Tinit. People came from all over. People came from many regions, and they came to build the January 1st dam. Mr. Witness, how did you know that there were people originating from all over Cambodia from various regions in order to build the January 1st dam.
Response. The building of the 1st of January dam was known to me very well because I was stationed and I focused mainly on my task. I focused mainly on receiving or reporting information on the activities of building this dam. Although I cannot understand the full coverage of what happened there, but the construction of the dam was very quite familiar to me. And at that time, I was at the dam site, and my friend was also overly in charge of the dam. He did not live to tell the story. He just died very recently.
Est-ce que vous savez d'où? Do you know where those who were working on the dam came from?
Response. So far as I know, as this 1st of January dam is located at the Kampong Thmo, which is in Barai district, the workers were brought in from various places. A lot of people were transferred to that work site, and they were placed in different cooperatives. And as I stated already, I cannot grasp the factual information how many people would be brought from each and every place, but I knew that a lot of people were brought in to build the dam.
So,
Je vous remercie.
Thank you for that information, sir. And were those workers evacuated from Phnom Penh and from other cities in Cambodia in order to work at the construction site of the January 1st dam?
Response. To the best of my knowledge, there were both the new people and the base people. There was no discrimination against the people being made to build the dam. And I don't know how long it took those people to build the dam. Perhaps it took them more than 1 year to finish it after long working hours. The 30th of January dam was built for 8 months only. My friend who was in charge of the work site told me about this.
Est-ce que votre ami vous a dit?
And did your friend describe to you the working conditions in which people worked?
The President, witness, please hold on. Counsel for Mr. Kyusumpon, you may now proceed. Counsel Kong Som-on. Thank you, Mr. President. I have understood the following questions put by counsel for the civil parties to be relevant to only the 1st of January dam. The dam is somehow does not fall within the scope of our case here, I did not object to the first two questions, though they were not relevant. I thought that she would only be brief, but then she talked about this again and again. So I take issue with it.
Mr. President, my questions focus on those who worked at the January 1st dam in order to determine whether or not those persons were transferred. And when I talk about the working conditions, I believe that in discussing the transfer of people, it is important to understand what they were doing, particularly in the aftermath of the transfer. Thank you.
The President, Mr. Witness, do you know when the 1st of January dam was built and when it was complete? Response. The dam of the 1st of January was built on the 1st of January, although I don't remember the exact date. The President, you remember the year, for example? Response. It perhaps was built in 1976, but I stand to be corrected because I don't clearly remember it, which I apologize. The President, the objection is not sustained, and you are now instructed to respond to the question. Witness, counsel for the civil parties, could you repeat this question? The President, the question was put to you on the condition of the workers at the dam. Can you also tell the chamber on these conditions? Response. The workers at the 1st January dam sites were treated with precise working schedule and food ration and time to work. There were different shifts, for example, when people had to build the dam. However, my observation was that some people were asked to carry dirt. How many square meters of dirt would be dug? Some could finish. Some could handle 2 square meters of dirt, and some could not do that. So there was a kind of sentiment among the workers about fairness, because some could do more and some could do less. There was an investigation into how many people could handle the heavy tasks. And the meetings were convened, and discussion was also made concerning the work quota. Although some people could work quickly and handle harder tasks, others could not do that. So such a meeting, the discussion was on, and we talked about this, and they learned that only very few people could work at that hard, others couldn't do that.
Thank you, witness. I have 2 or 3 more questions, which shouldn't take me longer than 5 or 10 minutes, Mr. President, if you would be so obliging. Sir, I wish to address now another type of transfer of population. In 1975 or in 1976, in the Central Zone, to your knowledge, in setting aside the issue of the Cham people, are you aware of any transfer of population from the Central Zone to other zones?
Response. I did not note that such transfers were in place because the Central Zone is very big. I do not believe that such people could have been transferred from this big area to other places. But I was convinced at that time that the population could have been evacuated from the cities to the rural areas, but not from the central zones to elsewhere.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, as I have done on previous occasions, I wish to quote from a civil party statement. I refer to D22/3451. I do not wish to show this document to the witness. However, I do wish to quote from a very short excerpt, the French ERN R 00849874 in Khmer 00565834. I do not have the English translation. Mr. President, do I have your leave to read out a very brief passage?
The President, you may proceed.
Donc l'extrait.
Thank you. The extract is as follows, and I quote. It is by a civil party who resided in the central zone close to Kampong Cham. In late 1976, during the monsoon rains, members of Angkar who were unknown again evacuated the villages of Svei Panan. In brackets, it is pointed out that the name of the commune and district are unknown. I continue the quotation. Kampong Cham province to Battambang province. My mother, Saudai, and myself, as well as hundreds of inhabitants whose names are unknown, left in a truck from Svai Tanan Pagoda, and then we continued the journey by train. 1 week later, we arrived in Battambang province at 10 p.m. We spent a night at Battambang railway station. The next day in the morning, several trucks transported the inhabitants to various districts. And this civil party states 2 lines later, there Angkar ordered me to work in a boys' mobile unit while my mother worked in a cooperative. End of quote. Mr. Witness, regarding this quotation which concerns new people who are in your zone, does it ring a bell to you?
Response. Having read out this document to me, I do not believe that Svai Tanan is somewhat in the central zone. I don't know whether the civil party could have mistaken that name of the village.
Je ne me suis pas trompée.
I neither add, be it with regard to the zone or the province, witness. I thank you for your answers in any case. I have no further questions for the witness, Mr. President.
The President, very well. It is now appropriate time as well for the adjournment. The Chamber will adjourn until 11:15. Court officer is now instructed to assist the witness during the adjournment and have him return to rather 10 to 11.
Ground Chair.